First thing, posture. We want the knees engaged to the shoulders, and for a lot of the movements we're doing, especially if you're not small or flexible, and just in general, you're gonna increase your mobility so much if you take your lower back off the ground and get your weight into the middle part of your back, that small part of your back, okay? So, we're gonna start this drill with one of his common movements that's gonna give us a lot of context here. Grant is gonna take a lateral step, okay. On the side he steps, it's generally a good idea, and even if he doesn't step, to keep one leg higher than the other, okay? You see his grips are in a symmetrical, strong plane here. If I make one grip higher than the other, typically that's gonna misalign his grips here, okay? Now you kind of see what happens right away when I do that. My foot drifts towards his arm, that's what I want, okay? So I'm gonna step on his bicep. For now, in no-gi we were grabbing like the tricep or the elbow. You guys can make a sleeve grip or just grab a wad of gi here, okay? Now, the second leg, we have a couple options here, okay? The bicep is one option, but if you guys ever go to bring your foot to the bicep and Grant closes his elbow, people are gonna typically do that to avoid submissions especially, okay? You guys are gonna use what we call a lasso hook, okay? So from here, I'm gonna pummel my left foot to the shoulder. Then from here I can grab the sleeves again. And now from here I'm using both hands to curl and just rotate my hips back to the front, okay? We're not trying to make an actual guard right now. We're just trying to use all these points as levers to recenter with our partner. So he's not making good angles on us, okay? One more time. Grips, he moves to the side. Right away I bring my leg up, I connect it to the bicep, okay? From here, if he lets me, I'll also go to this bicep, but remember, and you guys should do this at least once, if he closes his elbow to his knee and you can't get this foot in, you should pummel it around to his shoulder, and then square your hips back up. This is what I don't want you guys to do this week. When you get here, again, look at my elbow in conjunction with my shoulder here. I shouldn't be trying to aggressively push him away here. If I do that, he's gonna go with that energy, he's gonna throw you by, and you're gonna get your guard pass. If this is a situation where I'm on offense, I can do things like put my feet on the hips on my own terms, okay? But if he's actively looking to pass my guard, and I bring my feet down to the part of his body where he's strong, okay, let's go back. Try to throw my legs out of the way. Okay. Try to circle around. Okay. Now let's say I pummel in and I go here. How about now? Yeah. If Ulysses does something, and this is pretty common, like try to smash my knees together. Yeah. Especially if you're not mobile, that can turn into a bad thing there. So if I can put something there to stop it from happening while facing him, I'll keep myself in a good position. So let's say he's gonna smash my knees this way. Go ahead. I just catch my own leg and I make a wide base with this elbow, okay? Try to push that down as hard as you want. Okay. Now it's important that the elbow's wide, because watch, if it's narrow, it will collapse. Say the best details I can give you here. I was telling a few people this. I want my hands to be below the lines of my knees towards my thighs, okay? So like clamping here, like this, okay? Just take your hand. Take your hand, push my knee down. This shouldn't be like too uncomfortable either, and you shouldn't feel like your hand's sliding, like you're gonna slip off your own leg. That's why I don't want you doing like this on your knee. Yeah, because sometimes that will happen, and sometimes like if you don't use your thumb, you can actually kind of wrist lock yourself here. So I'm gonna recommend a C grip right below your knee, like a good physical guideline I like to use when I do this is I should feel those tendons behind my knee. Does that make sense? Okay, go ahead, push hard. We get something like a triangle, for example. This happens to a lot of people with like shorter legs, right? He walks in, he starts to stack me, and again, throws my legs out of the way. So if I can put something here to stop that from happening, go ahead and do the same thing. Eventually I can use that as maintenance for my submission attempt, okay? Same thing with something like an omoplata. Okay, we talked about this a few weeks ago when we did omoplata. Sometimes they'll start coming this way and they'll throw your legs this way, right? It's really the exact same thing, okay? So if Grant starts to face me, okay, I can maintain here, switch back to the triangle, or just keep going for the omoplata. Okay. Lots of cool things. Here's one more example. Can I take your back? Do this sometimes when I'm setting up rear naked chokes. So whenever I show you guys rear naked chokes with the choking hand on top, I always tell you there needs to be a prop between his head and the mat, right? And sometimes you can't use your head, but look, try to put your head on the mat. And that could be a good entry for a rear naked choke as well. Grips, okay, he's gonna move off to one side. I can keep that self frame in place in the event that he's not gonna do a true Toreando where he walks around and he smashes my knees, okay? This is a good insurance policy right here. My other hand needs to identify what is coming towards me, okay? So he's not just gonna walk around, this time he's gonna take like a cross step, and he's either gonna drive his knee to knee on belly, right? Or if his leg is back, like we talked about in the basics class, his upper body is gonna start lowering down too. So if it's a true Toreando and that happens, that's where my hand goes, okay? If he steps in more like an X pass or knee on belly, that's where my hand goes, okay? For now, we'll just stick with the shoulders. You guys can do both if you want. Okay, go ahead. All right. So we have a frame here and a frame here. I don't want this to drop. I don't want this to drop, okay? So the high leg is just gonna be like the first drill. It's gonna be like a leg pummel. All we're gonna do is we're gonna take our outside leg here, start to bring it up, and again to his shoulder, okay? Now from here, I don't really need to frame on this anymore because he doesn't have grip, so I can switch back here. Try to bring your other foot to the bicep. Again, you are at risk if you bring it to the hip. You're gonna get leg drag, okay? Try to bring it here, and again, realign yourself with your partner, okay? If I lose the cell frame, or like I have what we call like a low cell frame, which is common for playing things like reverse de la diva here, or regular de la diva. Again, I can start using posts here, and look, you'll use a lot of the same details to get out of these situations early on. Put the foot on the shoulder, start pressing, bring my other foot back, and then recover, okay? Let's say he leg drags me. Okay, same thing here. Push, high leg, recenter, okay? So if Ulysses does a full Toreando pass, he steps around, and he gets his head low and you cannot high leg, that's when we can start looking to affect the head again, okay? So there's that side frame, for example, I can kick out, start to shove the head away, and again, go back into a lot of the stuff we did last week, okay? There's a few other examples of that too that are effective as well. Okay, he starts to drop, maybe I didn't push soon enough. Even if he lets my leg relax here, look, for a lot of you, including me, this is pretty awkward, right? It's really hard to do. He's too low now. So, going back to last week, once he gets this close, head to head, chest to chest, whatever it is, we're no longer stiff arming or just blocking, okay? We need to use actual frames now. So from here, a lot of you are probably already used to this from going to side control, okay? We're gonna use a cross face and a frame on the bicep. So, first things first, I don't wanna stay in this position when he starts to pass, okay? A big thing this week, to keep that elbow to knee shell here, is to have your head follow your feet, okay? So in order to do that, I need to turn to my inside hip here. Okay, that's what helps me keep this frame, this like whole body frame here. Okay. Now from here, I'm gonna look to take my free hand, get a frame here, okay? Now I'm gonna bring my other hand under his bicep. So let's say for it to like highlight these details more, let's say Grant lets go of my pants, and he starts to try to connect to a cross face and underhook like he would in side control, okay? Especially in no-gi, like you're gonna have to get used to playing this. So guys, look, I'm primarily using my wrist and my forearm here, okay? So if he goes to grab my head, it's a lot easier to keep this away from getting the crossface, okay? This hand, I'm going nice and high, and I'm always bumping here, okay? The knee's already inside, that's good, but I also need to recover my other leg. If he backs far away enough, I will high leg, okay? A lot of times he won't though. So from here, I'll use my inside leg and both elbows to start pushing, so I can pummel this knee in, okay? Make sure you're making this knee wide, don't pinch it, okay? If he lays on this, it's not the end of the world, but this is gonna be really tough to maneuver here, especially if they're a lot bigger than you, okay? So make sure as soon as this knee goes in, you flare it. So now if he crashes into me, look, it's like a giant frame. Now from here, we'll do what we're continuing to do. Pushing, centering up, and then we can bring our feet back in, okay? I've gotten my frames in. Okay, he's dropping down. Okay. Again, if I go to do this to adjust my hips out, that's when he's gonna get side control. Or, if it's just a little bit of space, he's gonna bring this knee up and go to knee on belly. Okay? Now, some of you weren't doing it that dramatically. Some of you were turning to face your partner and you were opening that space for them. Again, that's the detail that your head needs to follow your feet. If you're here, your head can only follow this leg so much. That's why you need to be on your hip, so your head can follow your leg. Try to knee on belly me like this. Do the best you can. Here, and he goes this way. Guys, you shouldn't be facing this way. You should still be turning to the side like you were trying to do the last technique, like you were trying to high leg. Okay, go ahead. I should be facing him here. I should be on my bottom hip. If I'm flat on my back, yeah, this is going to be way tougher for you. It's going to be harder to frame because your hands are away from you. It's going to be harder to move your hips. You need to align your body in the way that you're trying to go. Okay? Situation where we can't pummel this knee in, like let's say he's keeping his elbow really tight. Yeah. I kind of brought this up the last few days as well. I can do things like use my knee to push off the shoulder, okay? But in certain situations here, if you guys have the flexibility and you like it, okay, you can also take this left foot and start to look for the inside of his leg, okay? Now, remember what I said too, this is another valuable lesson. You guys want to avoid putting this foot on the mat to hip escape to make space, okay? A lot of times it's what's going to separate your knee. So remember, if you're having trouble adjusting the hip towards him, okay, you can use this leg like a pendulum, and that can help you connect to things like the butterfly hooks or the knee shield, okay? So, like the actual pendulum sweep here. Grant goes to the side, but I've failed to make a good cell frame, and he does throw my legs by. All right. So, this is going to take me a ton of time. I don't care who you are, how flexible you are, whatever, to roll back and face him. And even if you do manage to roll on your back, he's just past your guard. Okay. So, we're going to use our hip as a frame this time. So we're going to use like a half inversion motion here. So when he throws my legs, he can hold on to. I'm going to start to use my bottom foot on the mat to start to build my hips off the ground, okay? In order to face him here, my hips need to be high and they need to be past his far hip here, okay? So my bottom foot is going to start to push weight into my shoulder, and as I do that, I need this elbow to slide behind me. Okay. Now, sometimes you only have to do this a little bit. Like if he's backing off a little bit, I can just roll and face him, okay? However, I want you guys to have the full range of motion in case, like, again, they're really putting it on you, right? We got to practice for like those real scenarios. So without Grant, really quick, I need to have the ability to build up to both shoulders here, okay? This is what I've been seeing throughout the week, okay? People are like almost getting here, but not quite. So what I mean by that is watch. I build up to my shoulder, I get the elbow under me, my hips are up, this is good. This is a good place to start. However, if I want to build that base to both shoulders, this is what I got to do. I got to continue to bring my head between my legs and get here, okay? And then extend my legs. Okay. Yeah, go. He's been killing it this week. You got it, man. So, reaches up into his shoulder, he gets his elbow behind him, brings his head between his legs, builds to both shoulders, beautiful. Kicks through. Make sense? So if I hear any of you fucks like, oh, I just can't do this one, it's a little guy thing. Nope. Alright, so this way, here, and then face. That's the full range of motion here. Because I wanted you guys to focus on the actual movement, but this hand, and I'm going to say a couple things about this hand, okay? If he's trying to drop on me here, I can still use this hand to frame and post, okay? Now, let's talk about what happened to Lachlan Giles at the last ADCC. People have been bringing this up all week. They're like, can you get armbar here? Certainly could. But the The arm bars where people just slide in are gonna happen at very specific angles, okay? So if Ulysses goes to hit the inversion and he posts up here, okay? If I go to chase this, and a lot of times I try to, look, he's gonna still follow me with that movement, okay? The technique we're gonna do after this is gonna deal with north-south. That's where you're gonna get hit with this more. If you guys go back and watch that match, I think it's free on YouTube right now, you'll see the exact moment where Lachlan posts at the wrong time and Cage flew right in. It's gonna be when I'm perpendicular and he's reaching up here, okay? Sorry. That's when people are gonna fly in for that arm bar. If I don't tuck my head and I go to do that movement, my legs are gonna go that way, and my legs are gonna go past him, and he's gonna pass your guard. Okay? We talked about this when we escaped turtle too. Now watch. The head's super important. We cannot do this movement with our head here. Now I'm going this way. Make sense? That's why loading onto the second shoulder is so important here. Okay? So if I do this, and I straighten out, my body is gonna a lot of times just go in that direction. That's no good. Okay? Again, this goes with that guideline I was talking about. My hip needs to be on the outside of his hip. Okay? And that's when we'll roll back in. So he's gonna go all the way to north-south. Okay. We're gonna frame the north-south position right now, again, earlier on in terms of guard retention. Okay? So let me just kind of explain what that means in terms of using my hands. If Grant's more upright here, look, there's nothing to grab, the legs are here. I'm gonna frame on the legs, okay? If he starts dropping, yeah, we'll frame on the armpits. Now when we get more into like actual north-south escapes where he lets go of the pants, he tries to drop, that's again where we use this shell, right? We'll get back to that later, okay? For now, he's gonna be somewhat upright. So typically, if it's early on, like you just step here, I'm looking to face right away, I'm just gonna go for the legs. Now guys, I've been saying this a lot this week, okay? There's a few people that like generally wanna grab here and like pull themselves under, that's not good. You can set up different things, but it's not gonna help you get back to the front of them here, okay? So I wanna push, I don't wanna pull, okay? Now, I need some sort of lever to spin me back to the front. That's once again gonna be my feet. So from here, now more than ever, you need to do what we did at the beginning of class and engage your lower back, okay? So do not stay flat like this. Make sure your knees are to your chest and your lower back's off the ground, okay? My foot's gonna pummel under both of his arms, and it's gonna butterfly hook his hip here, okay? Now I can use this butterfly hook, again, to pull myself back to the front, okay? So he passes north-south, right away I frame, I engage my body, I butterfly hook, then I come back to the front. Not be flat on your back. Yeah, you're gonna be like a turtle on your back if you're doing this. You need to engage to the smallest part of your back, okay? And then that's when stuff like this is much easier. Let's say for fun, I've been doing this for so long, it's kind of hard for me to do it wrong at this point. Like here, like I'll keep my back on the ground. That's my mobility, okay? But if I round my back and I go to that middle part of my back, the small part, that's really one of the keys of like learning how to do the stuff in jiu-jitsu where you go upside down, where like it appears that you're flexible. Does that make sense? Okay. So if I'm having trouble getting my foot through, let's say he's pushing against my legs or whatever, okay, we can walk our legs up and get to that position. I can take multiple steps if I need to, okay? And then again from here, this would be that idea of that scissor guard. If this is a slower motion, I can get both hips here. And like, this is somewhat safe as well. Like I'm not too worried about getting my guard passed right now. Not really worried about any strong knee lock entries, okay? This should be a simple thing at this point to steer myself back to the front, okay?